welcome to another episode of the Lei'd Back Life podcast, where we're talking about how to love life, entrepreneurship, and improve daily. Joining me today, I would say the specialist of guests, David Lawson. He's a psychologist and professor of counseling with over 35 years of experience. Worked with the Army for 8 years, providing support and training on de-escalation and conflict resolution. He's written on various topics, but his primary focus has been on resilience and more recently self-care. And I say specialist guest because I have also been a patient of David's. And so I can tell you he is really good at what he does in helping business owners be more resilient and have more self-care and ultimately live a happier life. So David, I'm excited to have you today.
Thank you. It's good to be here. I appreciate it. Yeah. I'm a little shocked you actually said that. That's awesome though. I love it. I love it when people talk about their own work and their own growth, man. That's awesome.
Yeah, okay, story time for a split second. One of my favorite clients of all time was like, hey man, when I first heard your story about you working, 2 or 3 days a week, I thought it was complete bullshit. And then I got to know you and I realized, oh my God, it's real. And I was like, yeah, I walked the walk. So yes,
yeah,
I walked the walk.
You do. I love it. It's awesome. That's awesome. So what's the questions today? What are you thinking of, when it comes to this? Because there's a lot of stuff here and we can unpack a lot in a little bit of time.
Yeah. So, our audience is like white collar professionals, business owners, that kind of group. And so I'm curious, when we talk about self-care, when we talk about resilience, I think it's slightly different when you own a business, when you're responsible for the livelihood of your clients and your employees and whatnot from there. So how is this a different topic when it deals with business owners? And ultimately, how do we help more business owners find happiness in life?
Wow. I think one of the interesting things for me is it's hard to know first what it's like to be a business owner if you've not been a business owner. So one of the fun things, I like being entrepreneurial. I've opened a number of businesses. I've closed a number of businesses too. I've had to close some. And I think it's unique because opening a business and running a business is a little like, in ways, thinking like it's a family member. Like this is a person that I am involved in, I am nurturing, I'm helping grow, I'm invested in this process. And there's a lot of emotional investment in that process. So some of what we talk about when you're thinking about business, we tend to think of it as an object out there, but in reality, it's often, and when you talk to business owners, they often talk about it like a member of the family, like this member is growing or not growing. They're doing well, they're healthy, they're not healthy. And so I think for business owners, it's really tough because they do see that business as honestly a real person. And to treat it like a real person actually is sort of a mental way, positive way of sort of engaging it. It's like, hey, this is a living, breathing person and I'm invested in it. And so like family members, there is a lot of personal investment in making sure it's successful, making sure people like it, making sure people are encouraged or, it's like, wow, I'm doing something and the business is doing something and it feels really amazing. And so I think for me, especially, you have to almost begin by thinking of the business and the business owner as being like a parent and a child. And that in essence, there's this developmental process. There's this thing that's going on. And so the psychology of it is a little bit different, I think, for many, because they tend to look at a business as an object or an it, when in reality, for most people who are entrepreneurs who start businesses, it's more like a relationship. It's a connection. It's someone that I want to nurture. And when it's not doing well, you're not doing well often. It's like the family. It's like, hey, the child is not doing well. You're not doing well also. And if you don't understand that, I think it can be confusing sometimes because there is a significant amount of investment. It's like a piece of art almost, where it's like, if somebody's hypercritical or if it's not doing well or if it's not selling or this or that or the other, then it's like there's a part of you that's feeling awful also. And we just often don't realize that the amount of connection we have in business startups.
So, but along those lines, okay, so let me back up because the lawyer perspective is the easiest one. So
Okay. Yeah.
the average solo attorney just broke $60,000 a year in the last like 2 or 3 years. So the average for solos across the country, there's like 1.5 million attorneys. There's almost 500,000 law firms. But then you figure like Morgan's got over 1,000 attorneys. You've got in-house, you've got state attorneys, district attorneys, whatever. So the
Yeah.
average attorney is probably a solo. So how do we take this? If the average lawyer overall is making 90 to 100,000, and the average solo is at 60, how do we help people have the resilience to see their business through when they're supposed to, but also the willingness to cut bait and be happy instead of constantly grinding for the rest of their life?
Yeah. Yeah. I think you're asking the $1,000,000 question, which
Yeah.
is like,
And David, in like 30 seconds, so this could be a
30
TikTok clip
seconds.
too.
I've
Like,
got 30
if we could
seconds to
sum all this
answer
up.
the $1,000,000 question, which is, I think, I think it's tough because just like it with a family member, you have to think about both. It's a both and versus an either or. You can't think about the other outside of the self. You can't think about the success of the business outside of the success of the self. So, one of the things I tell, it's such a cliche, but it's such a good cliche, so I'll use it again. One of the things when you get on a plane and it's like, hey, before you put on anybody else's, mask, put your own mask on first. And the reason for that is if you don't put your mask on first and you're trying to put your child's or your spouse's or someone else's mask on, and there is no air, you're more likely to pass out. You'll pass out, then they'll pass out, and both of you are gone. And I think that might be a good way of sort of understanding then the nature of the business. That in essence, if you're not doing well, the business is not doing well. And vice versa, if the business is not doing well, there can be ways in which it's also impacting you. You're not doing well. But the difference is if you're working on yourself in a positive way, growing, maturing, listening, finding ways to sort of explore opportunities for yourself in ways maybe that are unique and different, passions that you have, different things like that, then in essence, it's like you're putting on your face mask first so that no matter what happens, you've got the energy to engage the other in a healthier place. And I think far too often in businesses, it's so consuming. Like it's like the child over here that's gasping for air on an airline and the face mask is right in front of you and you're like, okay, I can save them. But if you do that without really working on protecting yourself, you run risks of really both failing, yourself and the business. And I think that's part of what it's a both and versus an either or. Yes, this is like a family member. The amount of energy invested, the work that's done, and I have to do my work. And if I don't do my work, I will pass out, and it will fail anyway.
I love that. So I love that, and I find myself. I usually do the like you can't pour from an empty cup, but it's so interesting. You're talking about it from the standpoint of if you fail, the business. If you're not around, the business is gone. Like it's closed.
Yeah, yeah. Well, because you're the founder, you're the person with the passion, the vision, the whatever. And so if you fail, that dies with you.
So when it comes to that self-care, when it comes to finding that resilience, like let me start with this. I'm assuming the answer for how we do that is different for everybody, or are there specific, like, these are things that help build resilience in everybody. These are things that are great self-care for all people. I'm not sure if there are rules or if it's different.
Yeah, the answer to that is yes. Which you asked two questions, and I'm saying yes.
Yeah.
The specifics of self-care are often different for each person, and from time to time, moment to moment, stage to stage. Like self-care for me, Jordan, at my stage of life, I'm a little bit older than you are, is different than your self-care at your stage of life where you are. So we can't choose the same self-cares all the way through our life thinking that they're going to remain a constant. So that's part of why self-care, like oh, go out and do yoga classes. Actually, there's lots of good research on yoga, by the way, for those of you out there. I'm not a yoga instructor and don't have no investment in yoga, by the way. But if you are interested, yoga seems to be a great way of taking care of yourself, exercise in general. So there are generalities that we can say, hey, yoga is great, self-care is great, eating healthy is very good. There's a lot of good research on eating healthy. Reading, my gosh, I look up to you, Jordan. I literally, there was a moment you were like, this is my 40 something book. And I was like, holy crap, Jordan.
I just broke 100 for the year.
You broke
the beginning of August.
Kudos. But
thank you.
People don't realize that reading really is a positive, and even if it's, audible or whatever, it's such a positive part of like brain recovery that people don't realize, oh, if I'm listening to a book, even if it's just a fun book, even if it's a serious book, even if, you have to have what I call in reading, especially like the difference between mind candy, which is just something for fun, and something serious where it's like, I want to grow, I want to get better, I want to understand something. And you need to have a combination of both. And so there are specifics that are good and healthy. We know that. And then there are the specifics based upon where you are developmentally, what's going on for you personally. And that's where it gets a little, so it's like, hey, yeah, I'm doing yoga and it's not enough. What else do I need to do? And often what it's like, okay, well, we have to explore then together relationally what that would look like. What would that map look like? Some people love poetry, works for them. Some people, it's just ridiculous. It feels, aphantasia, for example. There are some people who can't visualize stuff. So there are some people who you use sort of specific things that like help them visualize, sort of meditation and things like that. People with aphantasia actually sometimes can't visualize a lot of places, and that doesn't work for them. So it's interesting that we have to sort of, it's a both and of, there are things like good social community, another positive, consistently sort of like, hey, where's your social support? Where's your social community? Very good no matter what. And then on top of it, what are the additional things? Well, then that's where we go in and we start going, okay, you have aphantasia. You don't have images of things. You have words in your head. And so we need to do something other than maybe meditation. Maybe we'll do some breathing. Maybe we'll do some other things that will be helpful. So again, it's a combination of both the specifics of what is unique to you, Jordan, and then the generalities of reading books, exercising, yoga, mindfulness, if it's working for you, connections, social connections, which is absolutely essential. So the general and then the specifics, and they both need to line up and work together, because one set will work in a way and another set will work when the other one's not working. So the specifics will work in moments when the generals aren't working. Does that make sense? I think it does.
The unique ones to that person will work at times when the best practices might not.
That's correct. So you're exercising every day and it's amazing, and it normally works, but you're in a zone, you're in a time, you're in a situation. Maybe you're in fields where it's like something's happened and that's not working. Then we have to go in and we figure out how do we help you as an individual work through this and find the specific ways that you will feel not only supported but alive.
Well, I also find the treadmill I hate the most is the hedonic treadmill, right? Like as we try, like, hey, if only I got to X, I'd be happy. And then you get there and you're like, well, now I want X plus 1. Now I want X plus 2.
Hedonic treadmill is one of those things, our brains are amazing. They are. So this is the beauty of the hedonic treadmill is normal is whatever you're in at the moment, and the brain immediately goes to that. So it's a great reset. It's like, hey, this is normal. The problem with normal is for those of us that are really motivated and want to be successful and want to push ourselves into many different areas, you get there and it's like, it's not enough. It's now just sort of that. And so part of what part of what the hedonic treadmill does is it sets us up for, in many ways, failure ultimately, that we keep pushing and pushing until we actually harm ourselves. And so, I've seen lots of people very successful, and we're like, it's not enough. It's not enough. I need a little bit more. And it's like, you've already accomplished everything you've wanted. Why not relax? Why not enjoy? It's just not enough. They feel so unsettled because they feel it's normal now. And they were hoping for, the other thing that we need is a high. It's like that dopamine kick of a high. We love it. It's great. The hedonic treadmill allows the dopamine kick for about a day, a week, an hour, a minute, a month, for some people, and then it's gone. And then it's like, so what's next? What's next?
I also, correct me if I'm, here's your perspective. My perspective, at least from the business owners that I coach and know, I also find them not consciously, but subconsciously tanking their business when it gets too good. Like, oh, hey, let me make this crazy marketing plan. Let me hire this person who's got some red flags for whatever reason. Do you see that in a lot of your patients?
Yeah, it's really, really interesting. So, the colloquial term, the common term is self-sabotage. That in essence, we are likely to sabotage when we are afraid that we will fail. So I'll define it. So self-sabotage is often, I get to a place where I am feeling good, I'm doing really well, I like what I'm doing, and simultaneously, I'm also at the same time worried that I'm going to fail, and sometimes unconsciously will do the very things that will cause my failure, in almost like I'm controlling it. Like it's that weird thing where it's like, well, if I'm doing it, maybe it's better because I'm doing it. It's going to fail. I'm not worth it. I'm not valuable. Often it triggers, when you reach those moments, it triggers I'm not, this is not for me. I've made too much. I've done too much. I'm not really here. I've really made it, but I don't feel that yet. And so unconsciously there is this almost like, I'm not worth it, I'm not valuable, I'm not enough, kicks in. And when that kicks in, I can unconsciously sabotage, because it's like, well, I'm not worth it. And look, yeah, sure enough, this happened. I knew this was going to happen. And it's like, this is where emotional health, particularly the sense that everything that you have is worth it, and you're worth it. You are worth it, becomes such a significant part of your own growth. The research on people who win the lottery is that they get too much money too quickly. And what tends to happen is they either lose it within, I think the rule is it's a year to a year and a half. How do you lose $150 million in a year to a year and a half? I think I can imagine it, but I'm like, how do you do that? And I think part of it is there is this moment where it's like, you've gotten above where you're capable of managing, and then you feel, I'm an imposter, and then that imposter syndrome kicks in, and then you do crazy things, and then you're back to square one again, and it's like, well, I did it again. It's like this curve of like, I'm an imposter, I don't feel good, and then I crash. I'm an imposter, I don't feel good, and I crash. And if you're on that type of wave in any way, this is where having a mental health specialist coming in and walking with you, encouraging you, supporting you, and providing guidance on how to work through the parts of you that don't feel like you're worth it. And you are, but you don't feel it.
Well, it's so funny because I remember reading The Big Leap by Gay Hendricks and just being like, oh, business coaching and therapy are exactly the same thing. Like, this was the first book that was just like,
yeah,
you're putting yourself in your zone of incompetence as much as possible for whatever internal reason.
Yeah. It's so interesting to me that, it's business coaches are actually doing, I think, and have a wonderful niche, by the way, because many psychologists, many counselors, many social workers, family therapists out there often don't have a background in business, don't have a background in it, and business leaders supporting business leaders in that emotional space can often be, from my perspective, I've seen it, can often be better at times, because many of my colleagues have no background in entrepreneurship or business development or anything. They haven't even read a business book, so they don't know the language, they don't know the issues, they don't know the things. And so I agree. I think there are many incredible business professionals out there who become coaches, and they're much better in some cases dealing with what the business leader or entrepreneur needs than the psychologist or the counselor or the social worker. I'm poo-pooing my own field here, but I recognize there is a weakness in my area, and it's in supporting entrepreneurs and business owners.
Well, I mean, I appreciate the kind words, but I think you're being over. It's not a question of being overly negative. I think that the easiest way to build a personal brand is talk to yourself 3 to 5 years ago, right? The easiest way to be a coach is coach people that are 3 to 5 years behind you. So I think it's in every profession, the closer you truly are or were to your ideal client, the more you're going to understand the lingo, the jargon, the headaches, the personal hangups, the self-sabotage. I think it's for everything.
It is, and it's the foundation of our whole system of 12 steps, which is, they support each other. And there are business groups out there, that there are business groups out there that are set up to do the exact same thing, where it's like we come together, we support, we encourage and uplift each other. We try to challenge each other to different things. And so, yes, you're correct. I think it's not that psychology is bad. Please don't hear that if I said that. But it's more like there are times where I think knowing the language and knowing the person, knowing the issues can be super helpful. And
sure.
I think that does benefit a lot of business coaches at times.
So along those lines, I mean, I'm biased. I feel like business owners have the easiest way to tank themselves or to impact their own life, right? As a business owner, you can print an unlimited amount of money if the business makes it. If you really go poorly, you can lose your job and your health and whatever else. So I feel like this concept of resilience, this concept of self-care is so much more important to business owners, or maybe important's the wrong word. It's so much more influential potential to business owners.
Yeah. Maybe more foundational
Okay.
In being successful. I think people can, if you're making sprockets or you're making, not that that's bad, that's a great thing. And you can go and almost go numb emotionally, mentally, and just sort of do the same thing over and over again. But a business owner who goes into depression, or a business owner who goes into, is anxious, becomes more anxious, something happens, business owner who's struggling with something, I think it's not only impacting you, it's like you need to be able to put on the mask for the other person when things are starting to go worse or something happens. And if you're not in a good place and your head's not on in a good place, I think that it runs the risk. This is why I'm saying it's foundational. You run the risk of tanking yourself and your business simultaneously. Whereas, you can go in and, build something or do something where you don't have to be on your game. You don't have to be constantly engaged in making sure this is working. I think it does make it different. And again, it's not to say that people who are doing these things are bad or have there's something wrong. It's more like, hey, this is you. This is your life. This is what you're doing. And if things start going in a negative way for you, that can immediately impact your business. And that can then create a vicious cycle, feedback loop of the business starts going bad. It negatively impacts me. I'm feeling worse. It negatively impacts the business. And so you get this negative feedback loop that happens and really slowly undermines or destroys the business. Now, the business is important, but what's more significant is you're collapsing under that.
Right. So I want to go deeper on that, but I think before we get there, I feel like there's part of being a successful business owner that also, especially being a lawyer, where you're constantly concerned about what's the next threat, what's the next thing, what's the
Yeah.
next issue.
Yeah.
So how do we know that we have a problem? How do we know that we are deregulated? How do we know that we need more help in this thing versus just the normal, like, oh, I'm just a business owner who's always, worried about stuff. Like, what's
Yeah.
the line?
Yeah. I don't know that this is one of those similar to are there classic signs of what you do, or is it unique to the individual? It's both and again, where
Okay.
I'm going to use a phrase. I don't know that anybody, maybe someone uses it. Jordan, you've read enough in this area to sort of speak into it. I honestly, I think there's a healthy hypervigilance in business. I think there's a healthy sort of awareness of, hey, this is important, this is necessary, this is essential. I need to be on alert. And I think one of the keys to when does healthy hypervigilance um, become a sign of that you've crossed some line is I can't unplug it all. Like
Mm.
I can't go home. I can't go on vacation. I can't go, it's that moment where it's almost like where my hypervigilance has now led to a system in which I'm always on, I'm always ready, I'm always checking, I'm always doing this stuff, and I can't let any of it go. And the moment you can't let something go is the moment it's controlling you. And so the hypervigilance has gotten out of control at that point. So I think for me, maybe the classic line where it's like, hey, exercise, yoga, the classic line would be if you can't unplug in some way and you're less happy in the midst of that, that would be another one, like, meditation or something like that, or reading books. You can't, if it's been years since you picked up something enjoyable, or months, and this used to be something that was very significant, I would be concerned. These are the types of signs where it's like, I used to read, I used to enjoy, I'm making things up, but if you're
Yeah.
D&D, or swimming, or at the Dungeons and Dragons, swimming, watching movies. You love Marvel and you haven't been to a Marvel movie in like 3 years, and it's like,
Even if most of them have been terrible in that time
well,
frame.
I about said something, but I don't want to get in trouble with anyone here.
Okay.
I still live in the Disney World area, so hey, there we go. Anyway, so I just, I think if there are things, if there has been a shift where the things that made you happy and the things that you like doing, you're unable to do, and you can't unplug and do them, I think it's a sign. And I think especially for the business owner and for the entrepreneur, it's a sign that maybe we need to figure out how to begin the process of decreasing some of that hypervigilance. Because
So
it is healthy. There is healthy hypervigilance,
yeah.
by the way.
But well, yeah, I mean, it's Aristotle's golden mean, right? Like
Yeah.
being at either pole on anything is usually a problem.
Yeah.
Where do we start though? Because here, listen, this is what's going to be the issue, right? Like we can throw money at a lot of our problems. We can find a great therapist. We can hire more help at the business. We can, put some checks and balances in place. But I feel like so many business owners are like, but that's all well and good. I can't afford it. So where do we start with toning down the hypervigilance? Where do we start with taking time for our own self-care and being more resilient?
So if, let's just say the issue is I'm overwhelmed, my finances are tapped out, I've got nothing right now. And that does happen. I mean, hey, listen, business is a cycle, it's a cyclical process, and there are moments where you got money and then moments where you don't. And you could be in a moment where you don't have money. If we start there are ways to find resources at this point that are helpful. For example, listen, if you have not used AI, whether that's whatever, Chat GPT, Gemini, whatever, Gronk, anything that is out there, if you've not used AI as a way of identifying and organizing, so So one way is to sort of like use AI to help you sort of figure out what are some ways to organize my 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 sort of reduction of my hypervigilance. What can I do to reduce that? That would be just a mental sort of quick sort of organizational process. It's not therapy, but it will give you a structure maybe that, and it's, you chat GPT for free, Gemini for free. I mean, limited, but it's for free. So if you, even that could be helpful. One of the next things is support.
Wait, hold on. Before you go to the next thing though, like, what are we looking for from the AI?
What are we looking for is, I normally use cues related to, because I use it. It's like, hey, what are the ways that will help me reduce hypervigilance, anxiety? So first, I begged a question, which I probably shouldn't have, which is, what you're actually struggling with. A lot of times you're not happy, but you don't know what you're struggling with. So you don't even know how to query an AI system. And that can be the beginning of the problem. Whereas it's like, I don't even know what's wrong. I just know something's wrong. And then what I would do is, with AI at that point, because now we don't even know, how do I help my, whatever it happens to be in the AI system. What I would do first is I would actually start with, hey, these are the things I'm feeling. These are the things I'm experiencing. These are the behaviors that are going on. What do you think I might have? And begin with like possibilities. What are the theoretical? I might have anxiety. There's the classic biggies. Anxiety, depression, substance use. There's a lot of biggies that we generally fall into, and so it's not that hard in some ways to sort of like, okay, yeah, I think I'm maybe depressed. Like, you get punchy and angry and this and that and the other. That can be depression. But when you're depressed for an extended, or even anxious for an extended period of time, you get punchy. And so it's like, those are the types of things that you can start asking AI, hey, help me understand what's going on with me. So you get that. Then you get the sort of like, what are the leads, in a sense, if you're going to talk business, what are the leads that I can sort of look for that can help me work on some of this, my anxiety, my depression. And then I would find a support group. I mean, support groups are cheap. One of the benefits of a support group is most are support groups, particularly if it's like a 12-stepper support group, because there's tons of them out there, and they're anonymous. The whole purpose of them is it's anonymity. And so I found out later, lots of lawyers who were in the 12-step that I go to. Listen, I work it myself. I'm like, hey, I've got my own issues to work on too. I've got my own therapist. I've got my own issues to work on. And so finding that, because it's cheap, man, you get an hour and a half of group therapy, at a time, and you put in $1 or $2. And if you don't have any money, they don't care. You find a 12-step, because there's Codependence Anonymous. There's Adult Children of Alcoholics and Dysfunctional Families. There's Al-Anon, sort of an generally addictive family that you came from. There's lots of those things. There are inexpensive ways of beginning the journey.
And I think there, all those findings about happiness comes from your community. Like, you're finding a community of people that have been through or are going through the same stuff as you.
Yeah, and connecting with them in a healthier way, because a lot of times we don't even know the ways that our community is not supportive, not encouraging, not uplifting. It's normal. I mean, remember the hedonic treadmill. Well, that works also with negative friends, where it's like, it's normal that my friends are saying things about me or complaining at me, or that type of stuff, and finding a space where you can go in and they're gonna honor you. They're going to give you space. They're going to hold that space for you and encourage you. And there's uplifting, encouraging comments. That's really important.
Which is interesting, because I think the AI is really good at that, like being very supportive. But if you're talking to it from a therapy adjacent perspective, I would want to like prompt it to be clinically safe with me, like I don't want it's so great that you're having a manic episode, like, really,
yeah, give me this sort of fake sense of like affirmation. It's like, wow, you're doing great, even though you're really depressed, you're doing great.
Yeah.
It's not helpful. That's not helpful. But I think that's where finding, even if it's small communities, even if it's small places where you can engage and be supported. And I think that's where we, as individuals, as people, really thrive, is in communities that are supportive and encouraging to us. And if you find a business community that is supportive and encouraging, yeah, that's worth it. Go there. If you find, a 12-step community that is supportive and encouraging, go there. If you find a yoga community that is supportive and encouraging, go there. As many places as you can where you're going to receive this affirming, supportive connection is absolutely essential for your health.
So I want to transition. Like we talked kind of the first couple steps. Maybe they're down. Hopefully they're not. But like as we start doing these things, as we prioritize these things, as how do we know that they're working?
Well, that's another $1 million question. So how do we know
Okay.
it's getting better? I, I, there's not actually, and this is the hedonic treadmill again. So think about it as your brain normalizing everything. As you get better, your brain normalizes the better. So I need you all the listeners to understand that if you're working things, you're probably getting better, and your brain is normalizing it every step of the way as you're getting better. So one of the things to think about is you don't know that. This is why a community is so significant, because they can look at you. It's like the community emotionally, relationally is like, the picture of the before and after. Hey, I took a picture, I went on a diet. That picture is, that picture then becomes the marker for what? Oh, wait, look, I didn't know I'd lost weight. Look at that picture. Look at me now. And there are some psychologists who refer to that group as witnesses. That in essence, like a family member who marks the door jamb, where it's like, hey, this is how tall you are. This is how tall you are. The witnesses are there. This is why we need people, why we need others in many ways. Connection is so significant because they can say to you, hey, you're doing better. Hey, I see the growth. Hey, this is awesome. Or they can be honest with you and say, hey, man, you need to still work on some additional areas here.
That's why I started when I had the marketing company for lawyers. That's how it started. Because I had a group of lawyers. We got together to commiserate every month or so, and then at one point, enough of them were like, "Why do you seem happy?" And I was like, "Because I got it figured out. I know what kind of cases I want. They're coming in. This is wild."
This is it. I finally figured it out. I love it. But you have to have that community because they're going to tell you and share with you, hey, you're doing great. Look at the growth. And you need that. We all need that. Again, the brain, it's a great thing. If it didn't adapt, we would die off. And yet, that adaptation has its limits, its weaknesses, where you're getting better, you're getting healthier. You don't know that. Your brain just thinks it's normal. That's why people fall off the wagon when it comes to weight loss. Their brain normalizes everything, and it really becomes hard. You need a support group.
Hey, that's near and dear to my heart and my stomach.
Yeah.
That one. So what's the next step? Like for people that have been enjoying what you've shared over the last, 50 minutes or so, who want to connect more, who want to get some more wisdom from you, like what's the best thing for them to do?
So if they're wanting to connect to me, they can have my email address. They can do that. I don't mind giving out my phone number with people who, like, if you email me and you go, hey, I would really like to talk to you. I'd really like to listen. We'll chat. I'm pretty good at texting and even calling. I still like, believe it or not, I'm still like talking on the phone. And so I would love to do that. I'll do consultations with people. People who are interested are like, hey, I just like maybe a 1 hour, 2 hour consult. I'll do a 1 hour, 2 hour consult with you, and we'll work it out. We'll make sure that by the end of it, we've got an action plan. We've got something for you that you can work with and you can continue. We may do some check-ins. We may do different things. So for a business person or an entrepreneur who's needing something right now, they can reach out to me. I can provide some resources if they're interested in resources, whether that's reading materials, whether that's, I love books. I love reading. Again, Jordan's amazing. He's like way ahead of me this year. So I love it though. I think it's awesome. But there's so many options here that I think, I'm willing to work with someone on whatever and with whatever they
have. Is it the SEU email or a different email?
Yep. They can send it to. I have a couple of different private personal emails, but my SEU email I'm on all the time. So it would be easy to go to my university email and just send me a quick email, and it's D.A. Lawson, David A. Lawson, D.A. Lawson at seu.edu. Fairly simple. And so
there we go.
Yeah. So you can go ahead and email me, ask me questions, pick my brain, what books. I love bibliotherapy. I'm willing to help you just sort of pick a bunch of books. And some really good stuff out there.
Awesome. All right, David, thank you so much for being with us. Thank you to everybody who watched and listened. We'll see you back here next week. In the meantime, please, if you're looking for help, reach out to somebody. I also think following David on at least Facebook is great. You have very quick, pointed, thought-provoking topics that make me think about my own mental health and well-being in a very positive way.
You're welcome to follow me on Facebook. I do not mind. I actually do. I write a lot about mental health, and I try to make my Facebook a place of positivity and growth and things I challenge it sometimes. So yeah. So you're welcome. I don't even know what I am. I think it's David Allen Lawson. I think it's my full name. So you can look me up. I'm there with Evanescence. My picture has me and Evanescence hanging out together. So, the rock band. So it's always fun. So
there we go. Awesome. Well, thank you, David, for being with us.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody who spent some time to watch and listen. We'll see you back next week.
Okay.